What would change if, instead of worrying today, you worshiped? That's a big question, isn't it? It really gets to the heart of something many of us carry around.
It really does. That constant low-level hum of anxiety sometimes, or even the big, overwhelming worries.
Exactly. So today, we want to, well, dig into that, explore this path away from the weight of worry and hopefully towards a real sense of peace.
A path centered on a pretty profound truth about how we can handle anxiety through, let's say, faith and intentional action.
Okay, so where do we start? Well, there's this very clear, almost foundational instruction that comes up.
Mm-hmm. It's incredibly direct.
It just says, do not be anxious about anything.
Anything. That's the part that always strikes me. The scope is just total.
Right. It's not presented as, a helpful suggestion. It feels more like an intended way of being, even when times are tough.
And history shows people heard this message even amidst really serious stuff like instability or persecution. It suggests worry wasn't meant to be the default setting.
But it doesn't just leave you there with this huge command.
No, thankfully. It immediately offers the how, the pathway.
It says, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God.
Okay, so let's break that down. In every situation.
Yeah, that means like everything. The little things that keep you awake at night, the really big life-altering crises, no exceptions.
And the method is specific. Prayer and petition.
Petition meaning, bringing your actual specific requests, your needs, your fears.
Not just a general help,
Yeah.
but really laying out the details, the burdens, being honest about what's weighing you down.
There's something powerful just in articulating it, isn't there? Naming the worry.
Absolutely. Even from a psychological standpoint, getting it out of that internal swirl and making it concrete helps. It externalizes it somehow.
And then there's this other key piece with Thanksgiving.
Yes. This one can feel, well, tricky, being thankful when you're worried.
Right. It sounds almost contradictory, but it's presented as essential to the process.
It's not about being thankful for the terrible situation, obviously. It's more about intentionally bringing to mind things you are thankful for, even amidst the difficulty.
Like acknowledging past help or present blessings, however small they seem.
Exactly. It shifts your focus. Even science backs this up now. Studies show gratitude practices literally change your brain chemistry, reduce stress.
It's fascinating how those things align. The spiritual instruction and the psychological findings pointing to the power of gratitude.
Both suggesting it's a vital tool for navigating distress, even if they explain the why a bit differently.
So you follow this path prayer, specific petitions, bringing it all forward with this attitude of thanksgiving. What's the promised result?
The promise is, well, it's profound. It's receiving the peace of God which surpasses all understanding.
Surpasses all understanding. Let's sit with that phrase for a moment.
It implies a peace that isn't dependent on your circumstances, suddenly making sense or resolving neatly.
So it's not just, okay, problem solved, now I can be peaceful.
No, it seems to be something deeper. A calm that can exist even when things are logically confusing or chaotic. A peace that human reason alone can't quite grasp or generate.
It's described almost as a gift, something that breaks through.
Which leads us to another really powerful idea, worship.
Ah, yes. How does worship fit into battling worry?
Well, in moments of anxiety, worship isn't about ignoring the problem. It's presented more as a spiritual strategy, a weapon almost.
How so?
Instead of letting the worry fill your entire view, making the problem seem enormous.
Which it often does, right? It can become all-consuming.
Exactly. Worship intentionally shifts your focus. It magnifies something else. It magnifies the one perceived to hold the solution, the power, the love, whatever attribute you focus on.
So you're deliberately looking away from the size of the storm.
And towards the perceived size and capability of your refuge, your help. It reframes everything.
That makes sense. It's an active redirection of your attention and energy.
And this is where that inner transformation really starts. It's conscious choice.
A choice away from fear or panic.
And towards faith, towards praise. Even when praise feels like the last thing you want to do.
It's choosing to trust in God's faithfulness, perhaps, even when the immediate evidence feels shaky.
And that's not always easy. It takes practice. It's like building a muscle, choosing faith over fear again and again.
Cognitive science talks about retraining thought patterns too, doesn't it? Challenging those automatic negative thoughts.
It does. This adds that dimension of anchoring the new thought pattern in trust. in something beyond just your own willpower.
It makes me think of an anchor. When life feels like a storm, when everything's turbulent.
You need something stable to hold on to.
Exactly. And connecting with God's presence through prayer, through worship, that's presented as finding that anchor.
That steady point provides security when everything else feels like it's shifting under your feet. That need for an anchor, for stability in chaos, is universal, whatever language we use for it.
And we see this play out in real lives, don't we? People going through incredibly tough times.
Yes, people facing huge uncertainties, economic crashes, global tensions, personal crises.
And when they deliberately turn to these practices, to prayer, to worship.
They report finding things like renewed strength, unexplainable peace, a deeper sense of trust.
It's not necessarily that the external problem vanished instantly,
Often not. The circumstances might still be difficult.
but their internal state changed. They found the strength to face it, a peace that didn't make sense from the outside, and a trust that carried them through.
Which really highlights a core truth here, doesn't it?
That we might not control the storm.
We definitely can't always silence the external chaos, the job loss, the diagnosis, the world events.
But we do have a choice about our internal response.
That's it. There's that saying, you may not be able to silence the storm, but you can sing through it.
Choosing worship, choosing prayer with thanksgiving. It's like choosing to sing in the storm. It's not denial.
No, it's defiance against despair.
Yeah.
It's choosing where you place your trust and focus.
So practically speaking, how does someone listening right now start putting this into practice?
Well, it starts with awareness, right? Noticing when worry starts to creep in, when it starts to take over.
Okay, recognize the worry, then what?
Then consciously apply these steps. Bring the specific worry, name it in prayer, petition, lay it out there.
Get it out of your head and articulate it.
Yes, and crucially, combine that with thanksgiving. Actively, intentionally, look for things to be grateful for, even small things. It shifts the mental gears.
And then,
Choose worship, whether that's through music, quiet reflection, reading something inspiring, or just inwardly turning your focus to God's character, His power, His love, His faithfulness.
make that active choice to shift focus from the problem to the provider.
Exactly. It's about building this habit, this muscle, not just in crisis, but day by day.
It sounds like a trade, really.
A trade? How do you mean?
Trading the heavy weight of worry for something else.
Ah, yes. Trading it for worship, for prayer, for thanksgiving.
And receiving in return.
That peace, that anchored feeling, that strength that comes from connecting with something bigger than the problem.
A peace that, as we said, surpasses understanding. It doesn't always compute logically, but it can be deeply felt.
It's a challenging path sometimes, moving from panic to praise, but the potential transformation is, well, immense.
So let's circle back to where we started. Let this question really sink in for you today in light of everything we've talked about. What would change if, instead of worrying today, you worshiped?